Hey guys, and welcome to a free-to-play treasure scramble guide. Now, when I say free-to-play, my account is free-to-play, and I only have 2 Awakened Heroes built. But obviously, the compositions you're able to build would vary depending on which Awakened Heroes, if any, you have built, and the stage of your account progression. And also, for ranking, as you can see, I'm 93. In the region 33, but if you guys are playing in some of the newer regions, it would be easier for you guys to rank higher with weaker teams. But obviously, if you're playing in one of the older regions, there would be more whales for you to fight in the top slots. Now, as you can see, 93 currently is my rank with at the team stage. However, when I started out this season at the 2-team stage, I was actually doing very well, ranking in the top 30 players on my region. However, then I had to slot this team, which I'm pretty sure is a fraudulent team. I also changed it. I swapped Neve for Solrath for the next round. Now, as you can see, these are my teams. Now, one thing that's nice is that Ainz is making a return in this round, and he seems to be pretty meta from what I've seen in the guides and the different whales. He actually seems to be doing well, which is a good news for us free-to-play players. One, because obviously he's a dimensional, and two, most people have him built right, and he's not an Awakened hero. Now, as you can see, I'm using Awakened Solas in this comp, but I'm pretty sure you can almost slot any Awakened heroes into this comp that you have built, or if you don't have anything, you can slot in Palmer, who I used for my Belinda comp, but there are lots of different variations, which I'll go over in just a second, but I do want to show you guys something else. So as you can see, these two were my initial 2 teams. So if you're at the 2-team stage, I used these 2 teams, and then I added this at the 3rd team. And now for the 4th team, I'm planning to do some sort of invade Yorin team with Knisa and Rook. And for the 5th team, for the 5th team, I don't really have it planned out, or at least I haven't slotted in the heroes that I want to use yet. But I'm guessing this is from last season, right? But definitely want to keep up to date with your guides, which is why I don't recommend you guys actually look at this. So I'll take it off your screen and I'll go look at an actual guide for this season of the Treasure Scramble, the Frost variant. If you guys didn't know, obviously there's 3 different kinds of Treasure Scramble with different debuffs and buffs. But at this round here, you can see that at the beginning of battle, all heroes take 99% less damage, and then that scales down eventually. And then there's also a shield nerf, right? You can't get shield and such, and these different changes rotate with the different Treasure Scramble rotations, right? Frost, fire, and grass. Now, those were my teams, right? For the 3-team stage anyways, these were my teams. But now let's go look at a guide for you guys, because a lot of people don't have a Belinda build, even though I do think she's one of the strongest Awakened heroes, and a lot of people might not have Solus build, right? And this team is actually pretty doable as a decent free-to-play account, which is you would have these 2 built, and you also would have these 2 built, right? And then this could be whatever you have built, right? That could be strong, like Neve or a healer or Palmer or anything. Now, going over to the guide, here we are. Now I actually have a few things for you guys. First of all, I have this one, right, where I ranked. This was my 2-team comp when I was ranked 33, peaking at 29, but I just posted this in my guild chat before I hit 29, but then the 3rd team came in and I dropped, right? As you can see, I was 97 right now. But I have 3 different guides for you guys. Now, most importantly to note about these guides is they're all in Chinese, I believe. And as you guys know, if you can find a guide in Chinese, it's usually good. Now, for Treasure Scramble, usually I was able to find a better guide with substitutions for the different heroes you didn't have. A really insane guide if you've watched my earlier videos, but for this rotation I have not been able to find that same guide. So what we're gonna look at here is actually just, different teams, I'm guessing, right? Just different teams that you could build without many variations in the guide itself. So you would have to do those on your own. Now, I think initially I'm gonna take a look at this guide because this guy's a little more interesting, right? As you can see, 2 teams, 3 teams, and 4 teams, and I'm guessing these are like variations for the 4 teams and the 3 teams and the 2 teams, but it's pretty self-explanatory, even though I don't read Chinese. Now, one thing to note is, I think that's like a common occurrence in these guides is actually the appearance of eins. Oh, I don't. Did I leak anything here? No, good. So as you can see, eins, right? He makes a team here. He makes a team here, and even towards the 7-team stages, there's an eins team at the end, right? So here, right? Eins has a team. Now you can, as you can see, the heroes change, right? Due to how many teams, but that's because the heroes, like for example, Awaken Solace, would be needed in other comps as you go further down the team list. But I would say that this is probably like the most well done guide, the most complete guide, because it goes all the way to 7 teams. Now, notably in here, I don't see Awakened Athalia, who just released, of course, so that would be hard to fit into a guide. But I have seen her replace Awakened Thane in Nightmare Corridor, right? And also she seems really strong in Abyssal Expedition, if you guys are playing that. But that's interesting, right? So I'm guessing she would fit in somewhere in here, and maybe potentially she would probably make her own team, right? As you can see at the bottom here, you have this team, which features no Awakened heroes. Now, sadly, that would probably have to go if you could build a team with the remaining heroes around Athalia, because she seems like a powerhouse, especially in PvP. Now, this round might be a little bit worse for her because of the 99% damage debuff at the start of battle, or damage reduction at the start of battle. So her burst capabilities might not be as strong, because from what I've seen, she just wipes everything very fast, which obviously wouldn't be as efficient in the frost rotation of the treasure scramble. So anyways, you look at these teams, right? And you look what heroes or what formations can I build. Now, a tip I have for this is if you're not able to, build the starter teams, now you have to remember that in the start of the treasure scramble, people just cram the best teams possible, right? I've seen screenshots of people just using 5 Awakened heroes in one comp. It's pretty hilarious. I'll see if I can find that later in the guide for you guys over at the Discord, where people just threw in Awakened heroes and won, right? But as the team amount increases, you're gonna have to thin out your heroes, and that's why I think looking at the 7 teams is usually just a good starting point actually for weaker accounts, because they're not that stacked, these teams, right? As you can see, this features 1 Awakened heroes, this doesn't feature any, this features 1, 1, 1, none, and 1, right? So if you have Brutus built, right, or maybe, for example, if you have Brutus built, right, maybe you go up, right, and you find the strongest Brutus team. Now, actually, it seems like Brutus isn't featured until the 7-team stage, so maybe he is not that strong in this version of the Treasure Scramble. Usually, Brutus is stable in PvP, especially in the Eins team, right? But with the Frost debuff, maybe that changes. Now, if we go take a look at the other guides, right? I briefly touched on this, right? But it's very similar to the other ones. If anything, I think this is a little more updated. I don't know what gives me that impression, actually. Maybe it's just the fact that this one uses blue pads down here. And now usually using blue pads is just inferior to using, pads with a higher cap. Now for most people, obviously the blue pads would be 18 and these would be 6 or 9 or 12 even. But for whales, I can't imagine you would want to use a level 18 blue pad over like a level 36 actual pad. But this guide doesn't actually even contain pads. So yeah. But yeah, as you can see, different teams, right? Again, a Baden team, an Eins team with Solace, and then the Matria team, which has been really doing wonders in the PvP scene, which is just, Matria with 4 other Hypergene heroes. And that team just seems so strong. And initially, it's actually one of the strongest teams that I saw doing well at the start of the season, which leads me to believe that this guide is actually a bit out of date, because it doesn't feature Matria either, right? So initially, I would probably just look at this, right? Because Matria team, if you have the Matria team, you should field it, but obviously as a free-to-play player, this team is quite unobtainable, right? It uses, you know, you might have Mortis built, you might have Ganesh and Rook built, but these two heroes you probably do not have built as a free-to-play player. Now, I also found this screenshot on Reddit, no, I don't use that site, on Discord, which seems obviously more up-to-date, right, because it has Matria in here, and also it has Tarnos, right, and Tarnos teams are usually present, but they weren't present in any of these teams, right, and also, most importantly, it has Awakened Athalia, so this is a newer guide, if you can even call it a guide. Maybe this is just some players' plan for the season. It also uses a REM team, right, interestingly enough. But it's hard to say if this is actually a treasure scramble guide because it's in Chinese and I don't read Chinese. I just saw the screenshot posted. Now, maybe you guys don't want to rely on my screenshots, right? Maybe you want to find your own information, and so maybe you want to know where I find my information. Now, Reddit is actually usually a poor source of information. Usually YouTube guides and especially Discord guides is where it's at, because also on Discord I find that the communication is better, right? It's faster for people to answer your questions, and I just prefer Discord as a service more than Reddit because I never really used Reddit in my life, but Discord I've definitely used a lot. So if you guys want to find similar guides, you go to the AFK Arena crowdsourcing Discord server. This is basically where I find most of my guides. And as you can see, for example here, right, I'm in the Treasure Scramble subsection of the Discord server, and as you can see, they have the different rotations here. Right now we're in the Frost screenshot Discord channel where people screenshot their teams and their ranks. Right, as you can see, Zero, if you guys know Zero, he's just one of the goats. If you guys watched his Abyssal Expedition guides, I recommend you guys check him out if you want to do well in the Abyssal Expedition. He goes over good teams in there. But here you can see people are able to ask questions about the different teams and what investments different heroes need, and people can help each other out. Now this is also where I found the guides that I just showed you guys. If I scroll up, as you can see, here's a guy using the new Awakened Athalia. Here, right, Pogo. Pogo usually finds these Chinese guides, right? So as you can see, these two guys I featured, and then this guy, which is an older guide. And as you can see, Pogo also is like, I'm not 100% sure this is Frost, right? But it was shared today, and it seems to be containing PvP teams anyways. So yeah, if you guys want to find guides, if you want to find screenshots of different teams, right? For example, maybe, as I said earlier, maybe you have Brutus built, right? But none of the guides really featured Brutus in a prominent position. So you can see this guy was able to get 90% win rate with a Brutus comp, which is actually fairly free-to-play friendly if you have Brutus, obviously. And also using a Amelia comp, interestingly enough, instead of Irons, where I use Irons here, because, most people have Irons built and not a lot of, no free-to-play player would have Amelia built yet. So yeah, that's actually just about it. Now, if I go back, interestingly enough, to my game, as you can see here, I dropped, right? I just dropped from the top 100, which is pretty typical for my account. Usually, I'm able to stay in around the top 100, all the way up to 6 teams. And then once we hit 60, as you can see, I'm only 2 points behind top 100. But once we hit 6 teams, I drop. And once we hit 7 teams, I usually land in around the top, I land in around the top 1 to 2% with my teams and my investments. But I'll keep you guys updated once I find some better teams, right? I'll do another one before the end of the season next week. I'll show you the ending teams, right? My 7 final teams, so you guys could refer to that at the start of the next Frost season of the Treasure Scramble to see what worked there. Obviously, then the guide would be out of date, but it would be a nice starting point. And also, I can't remember actually how much time there is between the different rotations. I believe it's what, 14 days times 2, so like a month. So in a month, like maybe 1 or 2 heroes gets released, and maybe they aren't PvP relevant, and in that scenario, my guide would be up to date, right? Because no new heroes relevant for Treasure Scramble would have been released. But anyways, that's enough rambling for me. I hope you guys are able to rank highly in the Treasure Scramble. As I said earlier, I had this discussion with someone. I missed the days where PvP wasn't relevant to free to play, where it was just these 3 game modes, right? And you just didn't have to build for PvP at all. But sadly, these days, the rewards in the Treasure Scramble are just, I mean, they are unreal, right? And if you can rank in the top 100, you get time emblems, which is just, as a free to play player, like, this is so much value to you because you're so limited in the ways that you can get these. So yeah, I even think building for Treasure Scramble might be more important than building for even Cursed Realm, because I mean, these rewards compared to the Cursed Realm rewards are just, they're so good, right? And getting into the time emblem territory in the Cursed Realm, I think it's what, top 10% or is it top 20? Either way, it's very hard as a free to play player. Whereas getting into the top 100 in here, depending on your region, might actually be doable. If we look at some of the newer regions, right? Let's just, for fun, let's just look at region 44, the newest region, and let's just look at the top 100 player. If I can follow that guy. Oh, let me just unfollow someone real quick, because I actually want to look at this. I'm just gonna unfollow someone who is not playing. Wait, following. Oh, it seems everyone's active. I'll just unfollow a random whale then. There you go. Right. I mean, I just really want to look here, because if you're a newer account, the people you're fighting will not be in region 33. They would be in region 44. And hopefully now, when I press this guy's account, and I go follow him, and I go view his teams, there you go, guys. Look at this, right? Now, obviously, this guy's a pay-to-play player, right? But he's using, I mean, this team, I can just tell you guys, this is not a good team, right? So this could be beatable if you use a proper team. I have no idea about this team. He uses 3 Awakened Heroes, but I can't imagine this being good. With I don't see where the synergy is for example, Scarlet, and also his Scarlet is not very built out, right? And similar here, actually, this team seems not bad, right? But he really is missing key investments on some heroes, right? As you can see, he's not even built out any of the Awakened Heroes to their maximum. Like, none of them are engraved and stuff like that. So you're definitely fighting easier opponents in the lower regions as a free-to-play player. So building for Treasure Scramble might be viable for your account, but it's up to you. Personally, I kind of dislike the Treasure Scramble event. I really like Nightmare Corridor, so that's kind of what I'm building my account for. Anyways, that's enough rambling. I'm going to stop this recording because it's way too long. I hope you found some guides that could help you, and otherwise, I hope you can find some help on the Discord server. Take care.